Hi, I'm Time Hack. Let's begin. Everyone knows about the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic, and Julius Caesar. But what about before all that? Back before Marduk banished me beyond space-time to become his chronicler, I often wondered this, especially as a child. So viewer, let's explore Rome's origins and its age of kings. The founding of Rome is lost to myth. All credible historical accounts were destroyed when Rome was sacked by the Gauls in 390 BCE. Only legend remains. It all begins with the Trojan War, or at least the end of it. When the Greeks entered the city and put it to flame, all was lost for the Trojans. However, a Trojan prince by the name of Aeneas gathered together a band of refugees and escaped the destruction of their city. They journeyed to find a new home, eventually settling in Italy. As the myth goes, Aeneas's great-great-great-great-great-great-grandsons, Romulus and Remus, founded Rome. Romulus and Remus were abandoned as children and raised by a wolf. The two brothers grew up and located a good spot to found a city. Romulus began to build a wall. Then, Remus made fun of his wall, pointing out its low quality, and to taunt his brother, Remus jumped over the wall. Romulus, being a totally rational guy, killed his brother. Then, named the city Rome after his namesake, and the stage was set for Rome's Age of Kings. The first king of Rome was none other than Romulus, the greatest and most legendary king of the city. At the beginning, Rome's inhabitants were nothing but dregs of society, criminals, renegades, outlaws, escaped slaves, and pretty much no women. So Romulus sent out dignitaries to neighboring cities for marriage pacts. All were declined. Back then, nobody wanted to marry off their daughters to Romans. Now, pretty pissed off, and Romulus being a total ladies' man, he decided to just abduct women for his city. Classy! But at least Rome's future generations were assured. Romulus made the first versions of the Roman legions, appointed 100 senators to help him rule, and turned Rome from a stinky pile of mud into a regional force to be reckoned with. Then, one day, while Romulus was in his throne room, a storm erupted within its walls, and a cloud engulfed him. When it dissipated, Romulus had vanished, never to be seen again. After Romulus vanished, the Romans kinda freaked out, because they couldn't figure out who would be the next king. After a lot of bickering, it was settled that Numa Pompilius would rule. At first, Numa said no. He was a deeply religious man and preferred to focus on spiritual matters. But after much prodding, he eventually gave in. King Numa was the exact opposite of Romulus. Where Romulus was obsessed with war and glory, Numa preferred peace and prosperity. He turned the war-hungry Romans from brutes into a deeply religious people. Numa created all the religious rites and ceremonies that would dominate Roman culture. He created the Order of the Vestal Virgins, who presided over the eternal flame, and laid the foundation for all essential rituals, so Rome may be blessed by the gods and keep their wrath at bay. King Numa gave Rome 40 years of peace and growth. He was pivotal in developing the city's culture for generations to come, and was all around a pretty great king. Tullus Hostilius didn't have time for all that peace nonsense Numa went on about, and would not rest until the dying cries of enemies echoed in a repulsive cacophony all throughout Italy. King Tullus immediately started warring the moment he gained power. He wrecked the people of Alba Longa, then destroyed their city, and added the population to Rome's, where they were assimilated into Roman society. Then King Tullus the warmonger fought many other neighboring cultures in a plethora of successful campaigns. But during all his ponage, Tullus had forsaken all the religious practices made by his predecessor King Numa, and dark omens began to spread. The sky opened and rained stones over Alba Longa, and an otherworldly voice boomed from beyond, spouting angry rhetoric that the gods had not been shown reverence. Then, pestilence engulfed Rome in an unholy miasma, and King Tullus was overcome with sickness. Now, kinda worried, Tullus decided to get back on the good side of the gods. He commenced with a ceremony created by Numa to appease the deities and show proper respect. But Tullus screwed the ceremony up, then was struck by lightning and died. The first thing King Ancus did when he became king was to copy all Numa's religious ceremonies and rites, then display them publicly throughout Rome and make them mandatory. Good call! Then King Ancus warred with surrounding Latins, extending Roman territory all the way to the coast of the peninsula, and established Rome's first port city of Ostia. He was very fond of his two young sons, and never let them stray far from his presence. He seemed to have an agreeable temperament, and an astute competence in administration. King Ancus extended Roman influence greater than ever before, and greatly increased the city's wealth. But most importantly, Ancus ensured Numa's religious doctrine would never be neglected again. Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, founder of the first and only Roman dynasty of Tarquin. Lucius Tarquin wasn't even from Rome. He was of Etruscan descent. He inherited wealth from his father and became a successful businessman. Lucius Tarquin had immense political ambition, but his mixed racial heritage barred him from power because of Etruscan culture's taboos in their political hierarchy. So Lucius moved to Rome, where the grass was greener. He quickly made many friends and allies, and gained gravitas in the city rapidly. Lucius Tarquin's renown caught the ears of King Ancus, and the king brought Lucius into the political fold, just as he always wanted. King Ancus grew fond of Lucius, even making him the guardian of his two young sons. Then Ancus died. Hereditary rule wasn't a thing yet in Rome, so, ever the opportunist, Lucius immediately grabbed for power. He sent away King Ancus's sons, and got the Senate and people to elect him as the new king, probably through bribes, but his renown and prestige helped. Lucius Tarquin added 100 new senators to the Senate, increasing his political allies. Then he waged war, expanding Roman territory. Lucius conducted the first Roman triumph, a victory tradition that would span the history of the empire. Though he had a long rule, Lucius had loose ends. Ancus's sons were furious they were passed over for kingship, so they hired assassins to kill Lucius. The assassination went down, and the king's head suffered a mortal blow. The queen hid his death from the public, issuing orders as if he was still alive, and that he was just sick. But he was getting better. Servius Tullius was the adopted son of King Lucius Tarquin. He was born a slave, but Servius was brought into the royal family after a great omen about him caught the ears of the queen. As a baby, his head caught fire, but he was unharmed. He grew up to be a promising heir apparent, and after Lucius Tarquin's death, Servius accepted the kingship reluctantly. Unable to seize the throne, King Ancus's sons fled into exile, securing Servius's rule, at least for the moment. Servius showed great valor and competence battling Rome's enemies in a series of wars, and was an incredibly popular king. King Tarquin had two other sons by blood, though they were too young to take the throne upon his death. Having the forethought of a possible usurpation, King Servius married his two daughters to his stepbrothers when they came of age. But nothing could halt the ambition of his brother Superbus Tarquin and his daughter Tullia. They secretly killed their respective mates in a brutal wife-slash-husband swap, and turned their evil eyes towards King Servius, the greatest roadblock to their mutual quest for ultimate power. At the end of Servius's long reign, his stepbrother went to the Senate and named himself king. Servius showed up angered and perplexed, but ready to defend his crown. But then violence broke out, and the king was killed in the chaos. Like his stepfather Lucius, loose ends led to his demise. And as his corpse lay in the street, his daughter Tullia, wife to his murderer, ran his body over with a chariot. A terrible end for such a noble king. Tarquin murdered his brother, his wife, and his stepbrother the king. With Servius's daughter Tullia at his side as his queen, Tarquin finally had all he wanted, ultimate power as king of Rome. He was known as Tarquin the Proud for his immense arrogance towards all other Romans, highborn and lowborn alike. The first thing he did as king was refuse his stepbrother's corpse proper funeral rites. Then he purged the Senate in a ruthless killing spree to silence all supporters of the dead King Servius. Tarquin then revoked much of the Senate's power, and paid them no heed in governance of the city, seeing them all as being beneath him. He judged crimes, ignoring all counsel, dealing out his sick justice on a whim of his twisted impulses. He would have powerful men framed and murdered without trial if they displeased him, blatantly disregarding Roman law. He forced the population of Rome to build monuments to him endlessly, and went around instigating conflict with neighboring cities with abandon, earning him the hatred of all. King Tarquin left the city on a campaign. During this war, the king's son, Sextus Tarquin, raped the wife of a powerful Roman by the name of Collatinus. Then she killed herself. Collatinus vowed to destroy the Tarquin dynasty and returned to Rome to entice a revolt. Brutus, an influential politician, allied with Collatinus, and the Roman people needed little convincing to turn against the tyrant. So Tarquin was barred from the city. King of Rome? No more. The king tried to retake Rome many times in bloody battles that left both sides taking massive casualties. But Rome was a republic now, and free of kings forever. Tarquin died in exile, a shadow of his former self, and the last king of Rome. I'm Time Hack. See you somewhere in space-time. Bye. Bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bom boom.